Welcome back to the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. This is Kevin Johnson from Leverage Consulting, and today we're going to talk about measurable progress or moving the needle, something that I'm sure all of you are interested, something that sometimes we get aggravated about, sometimes we get excited about moving the needle and making progress. But sometimes we don't even know when we're making the progress. We don't know how we're supposed to make progress. And interestingly enough, it is sometimes one of the most simple things to do, and yet one of the most powerful things to do. And before I get moving in this, I want to tell you about something that was a little bit of a revelation for me, and this was probably 15 years ago. I had someone that I used to work with by the name of Evelyn, and she was one that she was always in charge of what was going on around her. She was one that even for her wedding, her entire wedding was mapped out down to the hour, and so was her honeymoon. But one of the things that struck me funny about working with her is, and some of you may laugh when you hear this, is that she would make a list of the things that she wanted to accomplish today, but sometimes that list would include the things that she's already done so she can go ahead and cross them off. And I always thought it was the most bizarre thing, is that she would make a list of the things she's already done so she can cross them off. And really, it wasn't immediate, but over time I started to realize that there is a little power in that, in the sense that we have already accomplished something, and we sometimes need to recognize the fact that we've made that accomplishment. It might be super tiny, but we made progress. We moved the needle. And sometimes those things could be very big. So it might be one big rock, one big something that you attack, and it might take you all day. But if you can cross it off your list, it leaves you with a really good feeling. So think about if we took that and said, well, how can we turn this into something that is a powerful tool that we use on a regular basis? That could be something as simple as you have a legal tablet and a pen that you keep at your side at all times. And it's something that I do. I keep a legal tablet next to me at all times. I also have something for longer term projects on my computer, but for short term stuff, something I have to do today or over the next couple of days, I have a to-do list. And I don't want that list to get long. I don't want it to be something where these things start to accumulate. But we can, when we build this list out, the whole point of writing it down is so we don't forget it. But there's another very powerful reason for that, and that is that if you take it seriously, you can be self-accountable. You can be accountable to the point that every time you look at that list, it's you hold yourself accountable for the things that you put down. It's not someone else riding your backside. It's not somebody else telling you what to do. It's what you wrote down. So obviously you thought it was important. So if it was something as simple as writing these things down on a daily basis and then being able to cross those things off as you go throughout the day, it has to leave you with a great feeling. And for those of you who are in a position where you have to report up or down, you can also use that to help educate the people around you, because many of us, whether you're working in a vacuum, meaning you're off-site, and off-site could literally be you're just working in a different room that nobody else gets to see. It could be you are technically working off-site. But some of these things, it's great to be able to report back on the things that are done, because without that, I will tell you, most people can assume nothing was done. It is human nature anymore. It's just easier to assume it wasn't done. But if we're good about keeping track of what is done, where we're making progress, where we're moving the needle, everybody will win. And another tip to this is, and again, if we go back to this concept that when you write the list, you're telling yourself what to do. So if you were to take this list, and this is something that I do with clients all the time, this is something that we may need to take a bigger problem and start chunking it down or breaking it down into smaller pieces. And then once we break it down into small, doable pieces, then we're literally telling ourselves what needs to happen for you to move the needle or make significant progress with, your numbers or employee retention or something else. I mean, either one of those two things, they're big things and they sound great. Let's improve our numbers. Sounds awesome. Let's improve our employee retention. Admirable goal. That is not a goal, actually. It's really more of an objective, and there's a huge difference there. When you're making this list, you might say, I want to improve my employee retention. Great idea and concept, great idea and conversation, but you have nothing to do. So even going back to the to-do list, taking this whole thing and coming up with a list of 5, 10, 15 items that you can start crossing off your list, things that you've done. And some of them might be long-term things that we need to repeat, or it might be something I do now and I need to do it again in a year. But these are things that when you have these to-do lists, you literally can take a huge objective, chunk it down into small projects or small tasks, and you've literally told yourself what to do. And as you cross these things off this list, voila, you're making progress towards your goal. You may have moved from a 0 or to your objective. You may have moved the needle from a 0 to a 5. We're halfway to 10. So it's really a huge, powerful tool that you could be using on a day-to-day basis. And it's even better, depending on where you are in your business or your job, it's a really powerful tool if you can get your team members to start using this. Because as you use these to-do lists, I have tons of clients that use, they have morning meetings, or they'll have a weekly meeting to discuss what they're doing in the upcoming day, throughout the day, or throughout the week. And as they have those meetings, I don't know about you, but usually when I get started during my day, a couple of things are going to happen. A phone call comes in out of the blue, or you get an email, something that completely changes the direction of what you expected for the day. And when you may have, for example, 40, 50 patients lined up for the day, and something happens and you're distracted, you have something that has thrown you off for the day, how do you go back and remember what you discussed at that morning meeting so we make the most out of today? And unless you're bringing a piece of paper and a pen to that meeting, how do you remember the 3 priorities that you walked out of that meeting with? How do you, at 11 in the morning, now that we're a few hours into the day, how do you remember what those 3 priorities were? It's very possible they're long gone. So it's super important, no matter who you are, whether you're on the front lines, you own this business, those to-do lists are super important. And going back to my point about recognizing the progress, I'm still undecided right now whether I'm going to do a video or podcast, leaning more towards video, that it's been pretty shocking as I've gone back through numbers for clients in 2020 and moving into 21, how they've actually made significant progress. Some actually had record months in 2020, in the last 6 months of the year, so July through December. Some of them actually had record months, a couple of record months relative to the previous year. And it's really tough to do a apples to apples comparison of 2020 to 2019. However, numbers don't lie. And there are other ways for us to slice and dice this, so it's something I'm going to talk about in, an upcoming podcast or video. That being said, it's super important for us to be able to go back and recognize the progress that we've made, because we can come to work and we can clock in, we can toil away, we can grind all day. And if we keep doing that day after day, week after week, it can feel like we're going to work and making no progress. So it's super important for you as an individual, but it's also super important for the entire team to be able to see those things that are getting crossed off to show we are moving the needle and we are making progress. Because let's face it, that is the goal. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm pretty sure if you took what I said today and even did it a couple days a week and turned this into an actual habit that you're doing daily, just like taking a shower, I'm pretty sure you'll make some good progress. So if you have questions, as always, feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward to the upcoming podcast or video that I'm going to do on the numbers. It's something I geek out on, but I think it's something that most of you really appreciate when somebody else has put it together for you. So that being said, have a great day, and I will see you again soon.